Hello, everyone, and welcome out to, I believe, episode 342 of The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky. I'm your host, Nick Nitro, and before we begin with our guest, Rachel Phillips, who wrote Sarajevo 1914 for the Young Writers Mad Lab, just a little quick FYI, if you'd like to see some of our fine sponsors, the people that keep this show going, please check out our show notes over at gbgpodcast.com. There you can find out more information about Packrat Comics, the magically unauthorized misadventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends, which is starting back up soon. And the one I will go in a little bit more further detail is Audible. Choose over 200,000 best sellers, new releases, all genres, sci-fi, romance, mysteries, classics, and more. Like you can get the new Sherlock Holmes narrated by Stephen Fry and much more. It's just a 30-day free trial. You can get that by going to audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky. And after 30 days, Audible is just $14.95. And you don't like your book? Don't worry. They'll exchange it for you. And say maybe money is tight after you do it and you just want to stop it for a bit. That's okay. The audiobooks, they're yours to keep. For more information, go to audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky. And just FYI, some of that money that goes towards Audible will get kicked back to us. So technically, you're helping the podcast out. So again, audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky. And last but not least, we are part of the It's All But Done Presents Network, and every now and then, there aren't enough hours in the day for readers. IBD Presents has given you a solution. When you're craving a story, dig deep into Stark Story Snacks. Almost had it right. Some tales are as short as one paragraph and will satisfy your appetite for fiction. Meow. Read it all at once or once per week at www.iebdpresents.com. Now, this episode of GBG is, first off, big shout out to Podcasting Press, who's helped me edit this episode down, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I will throw out there and say that this is my first time I've interviewed young writers, and I look forward to hopefully doing it next year if Mad Lab will allow me to, because this was a lot of fun. Being involved in a few different ways with young writers has been so wonderful for me. As a creative person, I co-directed with Stephen Woosley from Mad Lab The Offensive Penalty, and we'll talk to the author of that play. But tonight we're going to talk with Rachel, and again, every single one of them is just so much fun to talk to, so insightful to see how their mind works and what they're really passionate about. And I would say Rachel is super passionate about history and movies, especially so bad they're good ones. And matter of fact, I want you guys to be honest. We're going to talk about Sarajevo 1914, her play, which the tagline is you'll hear me say, Franz Ferdinand hasn't always been a band name. But guys, you're going to get some history lessons schooled at you, okay? And there may or may not be a bomb in there that makes it worth the explicit tag. So I do apologize in advance. But again, this is so awesome. And this is part of the Young Writers Festival. The dates that are available, they're all on the madlab.net website. And tickets are $18 for non-members, students and seniors $15, and members $13. Our shows are the 21st and 28th at 8 p.m. And Saturdays, the 22nd, 29th at 8 p.m. And the second matinee is July 23rd at 3 p.m. Matter of fact, Rachel is on the second night, the Saturday, so the 22nd and 29th at 8 p.m. and July 23rd at 3 p.m. And again, the play is fantastic, and we're going to talk spoilers on that too. So you know what? How about you download this, stop right now, finish downloading this episode, get your tickets for Mad Lab, and you know what? Once you get done watching the episode, pop this on the way home or, the very next day and get a history lesson. All right, everybody, enough of me talking. It's now time for Rachel from Sarajevo 1914 on The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky. Sarajevo 1914. So I'm here with Rachel Phillips of Sarajevo 1914, and the tagline is Franz Ferdinand hasn't always been a band name.
Yeah.
That really doesn't say, I mean, I get what's going on.
Right.
But what is Sarajevo 1914?
Sarajevo 1914 is a drama about the specific moment where Archduke Ferdinand of the Austro-Hungarian Empire was shot by a Serbian rebel, which started World War I, basically.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really have the actual shooting in it. I mean, it kind of does, like, off to the side at the very end.
It's off stage.
It's off stage. And it more focuses on 4 people in a cafe right beside the shooting, in the moments right before it happens.
Okay, so the great thing is that I was at the second reading, and so I had no idea for anything, for any of them. So, like, you know, you hear Hideaway Bay, like, ooh, what is it? And then as like, you keep going, like, okay, so this is where this one's going.
Yeah.
And I was like, Sarajevo 1914. I was like, okay, is this really a like, what's the twist? And you're like, there is no twist. This is literally Sarajevo 1914. So, which is awesome. And matter of fact, we talked, by the way, I mean, you saw the girls, Maddie and Alyssa before they left, but they were like, I really like that one. Tell her I said hi. So I was like, so officially, even though you saw them, they're like, hi. But I really like that one because, matter of fact, I think it was Maddie who was saying, because she has helped out young writers or been seeing them, they haven't had a speculative fiction / nonfiction in a few years.
Yeah.
Or, am I saying that right? I'm probably not saying that right. Take a drink. Sorry. No, not you. Okay. So for those who are listening to this for the first time, I have an episode called The GBG Drinking Game, where if I say something wrong, I don't pronounce something right. If I talk about Ninja Turtles, this doesn't count, so don't drink there. Or if I feel I messed something up and I go 3, 2, 1, I'm not going to edit it out probably. Or if I do have a massive edit, then you just drink the whole drink because it's becoming a running gag. It's like, Jesus, he can't say words right. It's a real problem here. But yeah, so but Maddie was saying like she hadn't seen that in a while, it's nice because it's just rare anyway. And I love fiction that takes place during historical moments too. And okay, so I have to ask, have you listened to Hardcore History?
I have not. It's on my list of things to do.
Well, it is a time commitment. I won't lie.
I'm behind on Welcome to Night Vale, and I'm trying to catch up on that first before I get anything done.
Well, World War I, especially, if anything, the first episode is amazing just because it talks about Franz Ferdinand. And the assassination attempt. And the way he puts it is such a great way, which he goes, we can't understand that we talk about like very vaguely or just as a very matter of fact, but we truly don't understand the magnitude of what happened, because literally he said the only thing I can give you an example of is the JFK assassination.
Right.
And you're going like, well, what? And it's like, because originally JFK was, I think, supposed to be hit from another angle, and Oswald, something like that, where Oswald happened to then go, oh, I can go here too, and just walked in and did it.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same kind of vibe he sets up. He goes, just imagine you're part of a group, you have an assassination attempt, it goes horrible.
The story behind the assassination is incredible.
Right. And so then you just randomly go into a cafe, and you're sitting there and what would happen? It's fate. Right. And granted, it takes him about 2 hours to get in there, but he also sets up too that, who is the diplomat? I think it was for Germany. It sounds like a donut. The name of the guy.
Otto von Bismarck.
Yes, Bismarck. Yes. Bismarck. Thank you. See, I was trying to say that to someone else the other day, and I was like, cannot think of the name. Yeah, Otto von Bismarck. Now, the way Dean Claren kind of sets up in Hardcore History is that the dude knew he was making himself invaluable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Otto von Bismarck knew what he knew.
So he's just like... So pretty much he was setting everyone up for this massive failure, which is horrible. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and like, matter of fact, before you guys
Otto von Bismarck was a genius, though. Like, he knew.
That's what I'm saying.
He knew exactly what to do for him. He knew what to do for Germany. He was screwing everyone else over at the time, but for him and his country.
I mean, so I really am interested in the fall of Russia.
Oh yes,
and I don't know if it's because I like the name. I like Tsar Nicholas because we share a name. I don't know, but and also Rasputin is just a weird dude, and he's fascinating, right?
Listen, the section of history, like from 1900 to like 1930, is like one of my favorite periods of history.
Yeah,
just because it so much changes within that 30-year period. Yeah, you go from the end of the 18th century into basically I mean, everything's completely different by the time you hit 30. The
Yep.
Great Depression comes around, Hitler's in power, World War I has happened and gone. Like, it's...
And also, the military is close. It's not exactly what it is today, but in terms of how they think,
Oh, yeah.
they are pushed into that because, and that's a lot of the episodes are kind of dealing with that. Like I think it's the Somme. The Battle of the Somme, and there's a few other ones where, like, the France just was hemorrhaging men more than any of the other countries. Yeah, and they were talking, he talks about how that they would then recycle generals, and just, you're not doing the job, get a new one in. And there's this one guy, because back then it used to be, it kind of was like the old medieval kind of, it's like, you move your men here, they'll move them in there, and then at daybreak we will attack. Right. And then of course the
trench warfare.
Who was the general for Germany?
Oh,
for a long, up until right before it ended, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think. What's his name?
Yeah. But matter of fact, and then he wrote great. He wrote, about it in the future, like, oh, we did this and that, and he's like, no, he's just trying to paint himself better,
right?
But the one thing he did do well, he's like, we should make it a meat grinder, and so he completely changed the game,
right?
But
World War I is an incredible game changer for military process, simply because of trench warfare and the idea of having these people encamped for so long in one place instead of the constant moving as you had in medieval times or even back into the Roman era.
Yeah.
And then you had the introduction of chemical weapons, which just blew everything off the map. Like, the moment mustard gas became a thing, it was over. Like, it's done.
Well, the thing that I really liked that he talks about is how the one French general, I think he was the one that was stayed in his command the longest, I think. He actually got tired of getting reports back from the front and going like, well, that's not, just take me out in the car to the battle. And so he was getting live representation. And so then he's like, now report to have him do this.
Yeah.
And because apparently Germany was kind of already doing that, but not really. Yeah.
Germany was like a little bit ahead of everyone else. The problem was Germany didn't have the funds to support the war effort. Whereas the other side of the war, England, France, Russia, America, basically showing up, had these huge infrastructures.
Well, I mean, Russia less. I was going to say Russia.
Russia less so.
Like Russia felt. Tsar Nicholas felt he did.
But Russia kind of fell apart. Like America, which is like this quickly industrializing country, has this huge support system, and they don't actually commit troops until the very end of the war. But they were still throwing ammunitions and weapons and everything they could to help the fight against Germany. And the very fact that they had that sort of backup nation, like, I don't want to say like backup nation, but they had this whole other country just throwing more supplies at them, whereas Germany was just kind of like, Germany had its own things, but not as strong as like a whole continent, basically.
Well, the other thing that was frustrating too is that by the end of it, he paints a picture that you had a lot of pride cometh before the fall vibe going on. With not just the Supreme Chancellor, you had it. Was that right? Supreme Chancellor.
Yeah,
he was the cousin of King George.
Of King George. They were all related,
right, back then. Well, no, they're still kind of related with some other stuff going on, but because it wasn't Princess Di like kind of distantly related to Charles?
Yes.
Charles.
I want to say so. I don't know that much.
Yes, but as I'm saying, it still kind of carries over into today.
Yeah.
But I just remember he was just mad. The way Dean paints it is, right at the beginning, it was all about the Chancellor. He was just upset about King, that side of the family not respecting his seat at the table.
Right.
And then by the end of it, he goes, no, it's also the generals that refuse to go to him and say, we need to give up now.
Right.
Because they're like, we're going to win.
Oh, yeah.
As I'm saying, it's really fascinating. If you do get it, the problem is like there are some episodes that are 5 hours long.
Right.
So they are a slog. But again, I mean, he goes into the battles, like really into the battles, different tactical things. And again, as you were saying, it talks about how the military especially grew from, we shall engage at dawn, to smack, and to technically a Red Wedding like vibe,
right? Because by the end of the war, it's not even really battles anymore. It's just two-sided massacres.
It is. It's because at that point Russia was having their own massacre.
Yeah, Russia's all falling apart.
What was that, like 16 or 17?
16.
16, right.
16 was the first major revolution. 17, I want to say not the Bolsheviks. The Tsarists fell in late 16, early 17.
My wife and I have moved into where we're at right now, and to our friend's house, and he was watching the Putin Oliver Stone interviews.
Yeah.
And Stone phrased the question, and they showed old footage of like the Bolsheviks and Lenin. And I was
I love Vladimir Lenin. Not like as a person, but like as a figure.
He is a horrible human being.
Okay.
Let's go back and examine. I know. I'm giving you crap.
when I say I love these people, I mean they're fascinating. I don't actually like them.
Well, no, they are fascinating though, because I mean, at least on a physical level, the dude got shot twice. Granted, that like years
Lenin
later
was a
led
genius.
to his stroke, but like, the dude. Man, I don't know.
Lenin is such an underrepresented figure because as soon as Lenin's gone, within a couple years of the revolution, you have Stalin, and you also had a couple other guys, but Stalin basically. Yeah. And Stalin sort of like takes up that little area of fame.
Well, but here's the thing though, like that most people are aware of, like they just know, Lenin led to the downfall of the czars and that whole thing,
and then Stalin takes over,
and then it's just like Stalin shows up miraculously one day. He's just walking along and is like, I shall take over country. No, and that's not how it went.
No.
But that's how sadly, that's how most people view it.
Right.
But also like I feel like Lenin's I was like, I feel like he's a cold-hearted bastard.
Basically, because Lenin did not care.
No, he did. Like he is like, well, that was the thing too. Is like I think one of the people they were like, we should probably let Tsar Nicholas and the family go, and he's like, no, murder them all.
Yeah,
like do it this way and assassinate them.
Get rid of them.
And then their own family was like, okay, sure, but then they got killed by Lenin anyway. So,
right?
Yeah, because wasn't this like his stepbrother or something like that? He took them to the house. And,
it was his stepbrother took him out to this house, shot them all.
And that's where the great story of the diamonds, Anastasia.
Yeah. No. Oh god, Anastasia's so dead. Sorry to break your hearts, but Anastasia is so dead.
But see, when I grew up, like the movie came out, and so I was like,
I love the movie.
Have you seen Rasputin on HBO?
I have not, but I want to.
It's Alan Rickman as Rasputin, and before he became Magneto and then blew up everywhere, Ian McKellen as Tsar Nicholas.
Nice.
No, it's phenomenal. But like, and so that's what I'm saying. So I was like, this is awesome. I want to read about it. And they didn't have Wikipedia back then.
No.
So you had to go back and they open up a book and like read through encyclopedias of Rasputin, and then you're kind of getting the biased view of whoever wrote their encyclopedia. And then today, like Joe Blow off the street could just write Rasputin was a dick, and then until one of the mods,
but
well, there's a great Penny Arcade article, and they were talking about the wonderfulness, but also the horribleness of Wikipedia.
Yeah,
which is it goes. I think it shows Gabe and Tycho reading, and it's like, you hear they're going to release He-Man on DVD. I haven't thought about that show forever. Let me look it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
That's weird. It says He-Man's a dick. And then it shows this, like, meanwhile, in Skeletor Mountain, it shows Skeletor going, He-Man is a dick. It'll be forever till the admins find this. And I'll just go like, yeah. Granted, they're a lot better at it now.
Oh yeah, like at this point, like there have been studies done that like most Wikipedia articles are close to, if not like matching the accuracy of like the Encyclopedia Britannica,
which is amazing.
And like, okay, admission time. I used to edit Wikipedia like on in like my free time.
So what stuff was it? Was it history stuff?
It was mostly history stuff. I did a couple of literature based things just because I used
now
to
is some of that stuff still on the page?
I don't know.
Well, you should go back. You should totally go back and just check.
I need to.
Because you were like, I did that. Now, granted, I haven't cleaned it up, but I did that.
I used to have a lot of free time on my hands, and so sometimes I'd go into like Wikipedia articles and I'd find things that were blatantly wrong. Or like missing some cool information that I knew and could source, and so I just...
It's like, Lenin was a dick, but he is a very admirable person for what he did in history. But he is still a dick.
I mean, actually...
No. Well, but I mean, it's interesting how he took... I just remember my first day. I didn't stick with college, but hear what I say, but not what I do. But my first day of political science, he's like, I'm here to tell you that communism is good. And I'm like, boom! And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, no, it's horrible. But in theory, it's great. But here's the thing. Human beings are horrible to each other, so it'll never work. And I'm just like, what? And I was like, oh, you mean it's like a utopia? Yeah. What? Yeah, and then it's just like, but people are shitty to other people, and so at some point it's going to collapse. Yeah, and of course Lenin didn't properly. He's like, let's save everybody by murdering them all. That's
kind of almost like what he did, and then Stalin took that and turned it up to 5.
You like history stuff? Have you ever Eddie Izzard? You ever seen Eddie Izzard's Dressed to Kill?
sounds familiar.
He is a comedian that he's a trans.
Wonderful.
So he does all his comedy in his full garb, dress, and makeup.
Wonderful.
And
10 out of 10. Good job.
Oh yeah. But matter of fact, it's hard for people because this came back in like I think 2004. So
okay.
it was like I just remember my dad was like, "What are you watching?" Because I lived with him at the time, and I was like, "This is really funny. You should watch it." And he's like, "But it's a guy in girls' makeup. Why?" I was like, "Because that's how he." I don't know. Just watch it. It's fine. And then he was like, "This is really funny." But but he really goes into history stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and one of the things he's like, Napoleon killed this many people. He is bad. Poi killed so many of his people. This is bad. Stalin, he killed like massive amount, like millions and millions of people, and everyone's okay with this.
Right.
You're right. And I was just like, yeah. And he also has another funny bit too, depending on your viewpoint. He's like, guns don't kill people. It's just that loud sound they make. Which I was like. No, that's but he really goes into history, and I really like if you get a chance, like he really goes into some of that stuff. Matter of fact, we saw him when he was at the Palace.
Nice.
He has dyslexia really bad too, so it's hard for him to remember things. But yeah, no, he talks about he talked about King Charles because he will take his original stand up and he will test it out by kind of morphing it slowly until he memorizes it, and then until it's its own unique thing. But you can see traces of the original show. Or the last few.
Yeah.
But he goes on this weird bit about King Charles I. Do you like Python any?
Monty Python. Oh, I love Monty Python.
Have you heard Monty Python sings?
Yes.
The Oliver Cromwell is one of my favorite songs.
Oh,
and I don't know why. I'm just like, but it's such a, because I'm learning and it's like, it's kind of making fun of Oliver Cromwell. So I let my wife listen. She's like, first off, I realized this is a poor example. She is not a fan of Monty Python. Ooh. But I know. But hey, she likes Star Wars and half the other crap I like. So I can't give her too much crap. But no, like I'm just like, no, it's funny because he's kind of a dick. Yeah, and I was like, poor King Charles laid his head. Oh, again, King Charles is kind of an idiot too,
right?
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to get the country back because God made me in charge. Yeah, because on the guillotine or whatever, he's just like, God's going to save me because I've been gifted from God. Yeah. Well, the stand up that Izzard did was he's just like, meanwhile up in heaven, the guy's like, are you done? I got a thing. I gotta go down to. Jesus, come here. I can't work the iPad. It updated. Like, okay, Jesus, Dad, you just gotta zoom. Is this where you want to go to England? What's down in England? Oh, look, the crowd. It looks like the crowd's disappeared. I wonder when the execution is. And then he comes in like King Charles Homeland going, where's that for you? Stuff like that. Right. So I was just like, yeah, he does stuff like that. It's really funny. And he also talks about, he covers all kinds of stuff from history. Yeah. Which I always like. I eat that stuff up. So if you can do some historical comedy, it's always great. What other stuff do you like within history? Like, what are your other time periods? Yeah.
The Punic Wars are a huge part of.
Okay, remind me what Punic Wars. Yeah,
the Punic Wars are when Rome and Carthage went head to head, and basically.
Okay. We were like, oh, Carthage. I was like, yeah, okay. I kind of remember that. Okay.
Yeah. I love the story mostly because of the Second Punic War and General Hannibal, which I'm so excited to get to talk about him because he's so great. He's the best general that never won a war.
Well, that's an interesting take. Tell me more. I would like to subscribe to your newsletter.
Basically, for those of you who don't know, back a long, long time ago, I can't remember when, in the BC years.
Before Charleston Chew.
We got it. Yeah. Rome was mostly confined to Italy. It had some areas of Africa and most of the Eastern Mediterranean. And Carthage was an empire based in Spain, which had most of the southern...
And Portugal, too, yeah.
Like the Portugal, Spain, France, a little bit of England, not much, and then like Morocco. Well, okay, so Rome and Carthage hate each other. They hate each other.
Why do they hate each other?
Mostly just because.
Is it like a pride thing,
or is it? It was a pride thing. Okay. There was a little bit of like tension in like Africa over colonies and their own settled territories. Africa and colonies, but like they hate each other. Like there was a Roman senator. I think his name was Plutarch. No. Something. But he used to end every speech with the phrase, and I believe Carthage should be destroyed. It didn't matter what the speech was. He could be giving a speech about, like, making a new aqueduct, and he'd still end it with that phrase. Like, that's how much they hated each other. So the First Punic War is fought over this little island It was like owned by Carthage. Rome, a group of Roman soldiers took it over. Carthage was mad because they just lost an island. And then Rome was like, sucks to be you. Except then those Roman soldiers like stopped paying homage to Rome and like tried to make their own nation. So Rome was mad now. And so they kind of like end up going to war over this island, basically. And it is the bloodiest conflict that the world has seen to that point. And we were talking about World War I earlier and World War II.
Yeah,
there are some nice parallels here if you want to keep up with it.
Oh, God.
It is the bloodiest conflict ever known to man. At that point, it encapsulates most of the known world. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, the Americas are off doing whatever they're doing.
The world does not revolve around the Americas, okay? I mean, kind of right now it feels like it because horrible things are happening, but depending on your viewpoint, of course.
I mean, like, Asia and the Americas and most of Africa is doing whatever. But, like, the main, like, hub of, like, Western civilization is thrown into this war. And Rome kicks the shit out of Carthage, basically.
Well, they're Rome.
Yeah.
So now, so was the general? Was he with Carthage?
He's not here. Hannibal is not part of it. Here. Okay,
Hannibal's
father is there, though. Hannibal's father is a Carthaginian general.
Okay.
And
so you've answered the question technically by answering another one. Okay.
He's a Carthaginian general, and he loses, obviously, because sucks to be Carthage, I guess. In Rome's peace treaty, basically they make Carthage like fork over the last bit of Africa and like a whole bunch of money, and they're like, you have to cut down your army very, very small and exile all your generals.
Okay.
So Carthage, afraid they're going to get absolutely destroyed, agrees. So Hannibal's father gets exiled into the western part of Spain, like northwestern part. In this parallel to World War I, World War II, Carthage is Germany.
You don't say.
You don't say. So Hannibal's father ends up taking a small army of people that left with him, taking over a bunch of silver mines, and basically making himself a silver baron, and muscles his way back into Carthaginian society just by like having a bigger army than Carthage. So he basically forces his way back into Carthage. But he is so mad at Rome. Because Rome basically took everything from him. He hates Rome for what it did. So he literally, I swear to God, makes his two sons, one of which is Hannibal, swear a blood oath to destroy Rome.
That was a mistake. I mean, in retrospect.
It's a mistake. So he ends up putting his sons into the Carthaginian army, and through their own prowess, end up rising to the rank of generals.
It was given to them at a very base level, but then they worked their ass off to get to where they were like
mid-level officers, and then
but still
boosted their way up.
They
weren't just like crowned.
Yeah, like Hannibal's dad was just like, "Here you go, son. I'm getting tired of doing that over there. Why don't you take care of the dealership for me?"
Right? No,
they worked just a dealership in this scenario.
So eventually, at some point, Hannibal and his brother are like the two most powerful generals in the Carthaginian army, and Hannibal hates Rome because of his father.
Now, does he hate it because of his father, or just what his father has instilled into him?
Mostly.
Okay. Are there other things that have influenced his decision?
I mean, there's been a few, like little tiny things, but nothing as big as the blood oath.
I kind of cut my hand, and I don't want to kind of go back on that, because then I have this weird scar, and I have to explain why it's there.
Carthage and Rome get into this argument over a plot of land in Africa, I think. And I think it's basically Morocco.
Oh, Jesus.
And Rome is basically
back around.
Rome, they're arguing about where the border is, and Rome, because Rome is like, we should have more land, and Carthage is like, no, this is the one area of land you let us have.
It should be ours. Yeah,
it's like an argument over like the placement of a river. Like it
kept blowing up and blowing
up.
Yeah,
until eventually Rome is like, all right, we'll fight this, because Rome is like, we're gonna kick their ass again, and General Hannibal is like, this is my chance to fulfill the blood oath my now dead father, because his father had died by that point, had instilled on me. So he's like, all right, let's go.
Jesus. But what makes him a good general that never won, though? Like, it's
we're getting to the best part of the story.
Okay.
If you know any geography, you know that Italy is surrounded by water on three sides.
Oh, yeah.
And the mountains at the top, the Alps.
Yeah.
And basically, by the time, like, you have two ways to get to Italy. You can sail or you can go through the mountains. And because of the time of year, the idea was that if Hannibal tried to go through the mountains, he would have hit it in winter. and trying to cross the mountains in winter in ancient Roman times,
It's bad.
not going to work.
It's like the Russians or anyone trying to go into Russia and the Russians anywhere else. But that's the sad thing. It's like if they get outside the Russian borders, Russia during World War I started to fail.
Yeah,
but
as soon as you have the Russian border, you're good.
But that's where Hitler. Hitler, I think
Hitler also failed in the Russian.
Did he? I would say, did he try? Because then
he tried. He tried super hard.
Oh, okay. Because I thought I saw somewhere. This is where always. There's tons of historians say different things. Yeah. Where I thought someone saying like Hitler tried maybe a few times and he realized, oh, Napoleon failed at this. I'm not going to try it anymore.
Oh no!
Or no, he kept trying and failing.
Hitler tried so hard to get Russia.
That's because Hitler's a dick.
Yeah,
the worst dick of them all.
So anyway, back to the Punic Wars.
Sorry, yeah.
Rome is basically like, so this guy, if he's smart, won't go through the mountains. So let's just beef up all of our armies around our coasts and like have our navy set up so that he can't even get to Italy, right?
Okay.
So Hannibal goes, all right, I see you. How about I go through the Alps anyway?
Okay.
So Hannibal gets his like giant army, which also includes war elephants. Like he has war elephants.
It's rad.
And he leads them through the Appalachian Mountains. He sticks himself at the back of the army so that if anyone tries to desert, they have to run past him.
Okay, and then he kills them.
Basically. And he forces them through these mountains. And not only does he make the crossing, he makes the crossing with 20,000 men, which is huge for the time period.
Sure.
And Rome was not expecting him to do this. Rome was not expecting him to do this so hard that the only soldiers that are up there are like the shitty little soldiers that are like half diseased and like really old.
It's like, it's like Sam in the Night Watch. He shouldn't be there. But he's there.
But he's there.
And then he dies. Well, Sam doesn't die there in the books. I hope. Oh, God.
And
continue.
So Hannibal comes out of these mountains, right? 20,000 men, war elephants.
Yeah.
Facing these bedraggled soldiers that have never seen an elephant before.
So that's a monster to them.
So yeah, they see this war demon like come out of these like mountain passes and over this river. And they're done. They panic. They run. They're gone. Right?
That's so cool.
So Hannibal basically Hannibal is the first general to ever make it on Italian soil during the Roman rule, Roman Golden Age.
Sure.
And sweeps down Italy, like just rams right through. At one point, he contracts marsh fever, which is this like horrible infection that most people died from, and he gets it in his eye, right? And instead of either trying to wait and see what happens, or like most people would do, dude straight up rips his eye out, just straight up on his own. Like he just tears out his own eye and keeps going.
So my friend the other day was watching because it was a long night because I work night shift and we were slow, and so he was on his iPhone or iPad watching John Wick 2. And have you seen it?
No, I have not.
It's, you think the first one? Have you seen the first one?
No.
I'm not a big fan of these types of movies usually because they're like 80s like action blown up.
Okay, got it.
Which, I mean, they're okay.
Right.
But it's like that's a Netflix movie. I kind of wish I saw John Wick in theaters because it's Keanu Reeves and he's just like, I don't know. The whole vibe is just like, I gave up being a hitman for my wife, but then she died and she left me this dog because I can't be alone. And then these these assholes kill my dog, and so I'm gonna pull out my guns and just murder them all because it happens to be the son of an old mob boss.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a double tapper, so like he doesn't go up and just shoot you. He like there's a one point where he backs into somebody like 80 miles per hour with a car, and the guy rolls. The dude's dead, but he sits there and he just goes right. You're right. So. Point is, this is what made me think of this, and because it was horrifying to watch. John Wick 2, he's fighting a dude on a subway, and he just splits the guy's legs open and just grabs his balls and rips them out. I'm going like, oh gosh, it's cool, but it's horrifying. Yeah, it's the same thing with ripping out your own freaking eye.
He doesn't. The infection doesn't spread, and he doesn't die.
So really, what you're saying is The Walking Dead is ripping off history by cutting off his own. Yeah. Okay.
So he cuts out his own eye, and he keeps going
because he's Hannibal,
and he has to take down Rome. Hannibal fights in a battle called the Battle of the Carn, which is one of the most impressive military victories. Because at this point, Rome has realized, oh shit, there is an army on Italian soil, and they are doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So they muster up, I think it's like a third of the Roman army, One third is off trying to get into Spain, and the other third is like scattered around the countryside. So they get together this one third of the Roman army, and they're like, okay, let's go fight them by this river called the Carn River. And Hannibal takes his 15,000 guys at this point because he's lost a few.
Sure. Just a few.
5,000. It's fine.
3,000 or 4,000.
He takes 15,000 men up against one third of the famous Roman legion and wipes them out.
That's rad.
He pins them up against, like...
How much men did he lose, though, in the process?
He only lost, like, a couple thousand. Like, he still has a nice chunk of his army left over.
So that's probably about, at this point, after 2 major battles like that, probably about 15,000?
15,000, 14,000, something like that.
Rad. Okay,
so,
okay.
like, this strategy, like, he, like, leads this army and, like, gets them strung out across this river. Because on one side there's cliffs and one side is the river. He gets his army all strung out, and he basically just, from the distance, pot shots. Just...
With his bad eye, too.
With his bad eye.
With his bad eye. It's like, I'm left-handed, but my left eye got ripped out. So it's all
good.
But I'm still a badass.
He, like, pot shots them for a while, and then when they're down, like, to about half to a third of their strength, he just comes in and just...
Wipes them out.
It's done. Like, major Roman generals are dying. Like,
and back then, too, like... Battles at the most took maybe a few days, not even that. Like, no. And nowadays wars they're just kind of indefinite.
Yeah.
In some cases,
like
so, that's so impressive.
He takes out a third of the Roman legion in like a day and a half, and like one of the Roman what are they called? They're not called chancellors. They're called.
Are they?
No. It's like this, like, because they have like a rotating like 3-man like leadership. Like 2 of them die in this battle. He takes out 2 of them.
Oh, we're leaving.
Like, he is destroying the Roman army.
Okay, so then what led to his downfall?
What leads to his downfall is he is like a week's ride away from Rome with most of his forces, and he's planning on taking the city. Problem for Hannibal, his brother is not as good of a general as he is. And his brother has been horribly losing. His brother was tasked with defending Carthage. And
the home state.
The home state.
If you lose the home state, you're fighting for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he gets this... He's a week's away from Rome, and he gets this letter from Carthage that is basically like, your brother is awful. Please come back and save us. And he does not have time to send them a letter to explain his position. He can't refuse.
Yeah.
So he's a week away from Rome, and he has to get on a boat.
So then he loses just because he has to go back.
Yeah, he sails to Carthage, and by the time he gets there, Carthage is already in ruins. They've already destroyed and sacked the city.
And at that point, too, now did his brother die in the sack?
His brother's dead. Like, Carthage is gone.
So is the army there waiting for him to get there?
Yes. He managed...
It's probably the full might of the Roman army at this point.
Yeah, it's like the last...
I don't say they wiped out the rest of everything else. So, okay.
It's the rest of the Roman army. It's him, like 12,000 guys. He sees Carthage is just a wreck, like from his boat.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm not even getting on. I'm not. And he just like sails away to the other side of Spain, where he lives the rest of his days out in exile.
Really?
Yes.
So he didn't even die in battle?
No, he's just...
wow. So, okay, Hannibal, you made a big deal about his blood oath, and you're kind of shitty at it. I mean, well, here's the thing.
But it's an excellent story.
No, it is.
This guy...
Now, in your mind, do you think if he sacked Rome,
yes, it would have mattered, because he had to sail from Rome to Spain.
Right.
With a large army.
Okay, so now this is where the geek in me comes out as a fan of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of my favorite... have you ever read Timeline?
I have not.
Okay, so don't watch the movie. It's a piece of freaking shit.
Okay.
And it's really only because they did the typical Hollywood thing to it, which I can't freaking stand. But sometimes where... the book, though, they try to... Like, for example, if we realistically went back in time, or a facsimile thereof... we would have no idea what the hell they're saying, even in England.
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different version
language,
of... Yeah. Like, even Shakespeare itself, they said, is actually a very more...
American style
of speaking for the time. And you're just like, wow, that's
Yeah.
insane. So one of the things they have is they have a translator that will help you. And matter of fact, you have courses where you Charles speaking. It sounds more like the Cockney, like Brad Pitt and Lock, Stock, and where you just can't understand what the hell he's saying.
Right.
But the really interesting thing, though, is that what I really find interesting is that they talk about absolutes. And moments in time that are fixed, and
Shooting of Archduke Ferdinand. Okay,
but I don't know. Honestly, that's a good example.
Yeah.
So Hitler is another good example, and actually, Crichton took a lot of his cues from Hawking in the history of time and how he believes, because quantum mechanics is time travel technically, and he also just goes, look, we as a society are like Back to the Future. That's how time travel works, and it's not. He's saying that there are multiple iterations of things in time where little things happen, but through all of these parallel, where there are fixed moments that you cannot change. For example, you cannot change Hitler taking power. Because if you did, because remember, that's the joke. I'm going to go back in time and kill Hitler. So say you do that. Guess what? Someone who's just as bad as Hitler is going to take his place. So all the same stuff's going to happen.
It's just a different name.
Right. So if you would go back and kill the guy from delivering that letter, that could be a fixed moment in time where Hannibal will still, for whatever reason, go back
to Carthage.
And so, but I'm saying, as a fan of history, do you feel that would be the case, that would be a fixed moment in time?
I feel like it probably would, simply because a lot of modern culture is built on the fact that, like, culture of Rome.
Yes.
And if Hannibal had gone and taken Rome out, instead of, Roman architecture and all the ideals we got from them, we'd have Carthaginian. We wouldn't have these Roman pillars. We'd have, like, Carthage. Like, they had a thing about domes. Like, even, like, something as simple as that. Like, architecture would be different.
I don't even know. It was like, Stephen King has a thing about domes. He wrote a book about it, but
that book is awful. I read the entire thing.
I heard because a lot of everyone was like, it's a new Stephen King book, and it wasn't announced, and everyone was like, oh, it's pretty not a good book.
It's not a good book. I read all, like, 1,300 pages. Don't do it.
Anyway, thank you, though. There you go, everybody.
Do not read Under the Dome by Stephen King. Because, like, the Romans spoke Latin, and Latin is the base language from most Romantic languages, such as English.
Have you ever seen Rushmore with Wes Anderson?
Yes.
Yeah, he has that line. He's like, why Latin? It's a dead language. And then she's like, I like Latin. And then he goes up and he's like, we're going to save Latin. It's a Romantic language. Sorry.
But, like, Carthage had its own spoken language.
Yeah.
So, I can't remember what it's called.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, they did, like, they spoke Latin because obviously they spoke Latin, but their main language was something different. So had, like, Rome got destroyed and not gotten the chance to, like, proliferate as much as it did, we would have a completely different language base.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is that in your perspective, because Rome is so prevalent, do you feel like that Carthage would have rose up and still won technically in long term, or do you feel like it would still be Rome? Because I guess that's what I find fascinating about, especially with history.
If I feel like if we're going with this, like, fixed time theory, if Rome was to have fallen, what probably would happen then instead was they would have, like, basically assimilated Roman culture into their own, and
Roman culture still would be prevalent.
It would just be, we just know it as Carthaginian instead of Roman.
Gotcha, but it would still. But then scholars would probably at some point go, it's still tied into Rome.
Yes,
and so then they'll still call it Rome.
It's still.
So it would still be a thing. Fascinating, just as much as the actual history. Okay, so are you going to go into want to be a historian?
I'm thinking maybe a minor.
What's your major then? Writing?
English. Yes, English? Writing.
Okay.
Creative writing focus.
Words are good.
Words are fantastic.
Words be good, y'all. So what made you get into writing? Because, I mean, you are, like me and the Ninja Turtles, you are take a drink. You are super fascinated with history. Like, you are, like, that is your jam.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, what is it about writing? And do you want to write more historical stuff? Or do you want to, or is this just like you're dipping your toe into the water because you love history as well?
It's kind of more that. Like, my brain was always like, I want to write, like, fantasy is what I was wanting to do.
Like Lord of the Rings fantasy, kind of Harry Potter-ish?
More Harry Potter-ish, because wizards are cool.
So are bow ties, by the way. Sorry, Doctor Who.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
Okay. You're like, oh God, Doctor Who, yes. No, continue.
But I mean, history on its own, like, I'm not into like all of history. Like I like there are certain specific facets of it, but I feel like I could do a lot with like historical fiction.
Now, do you kind of also want to do because I think it took, honestly, the TV show for people to really pay attention to the historical stuff, but George R. R. Martin would take historical things. Yeah. Technically, it's the Battle of the Roses.
Yes.
And it's technically what he's doing.
I think that'd be
more
like fantasy style War of the Roses. Right. I mean, I think like that could be a cool like little mixture that I could play with. Right. Is that something that you thought about doing too, or like at some sort point? Of? Yeah. Like at some point.
Okay. Well, because here's the thing: like Star Wars and Harry Potter are technically, I mean, in my opinion, they're hero journeys. 100%.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's the typical mythological way
it's
of
classic.
Telling a story.
It's classic.
But at its base, though, I also kind of feel like it's also based around history because, I mean, okay, at least episode 1 through 3 of Star Wars, that's to me all about Hitler taking power, and you can kind of say the same thing about Voldemort. Now. You can also say too that happened twice because the way the Fantastic Beasts, and so it becomes more of a question of what is she trying to say with both. But again, though, I've listened because I have the Stephen Fry version, not that nothing wrong with Alan. Is it Alan Dale? Whoever he reads because. Stephen Fry is the shit.
Right.
And so when I found out he did the British reading of the audiobooks, I was like, I'm not getting the other version. So I acquired them, and I just remember I got, halfway through the third book before I just got busy, which I need to rectify that. But they talk a lot about how he rose to power, Voldemort did. And then when I'm watching, so I've seen all the movies, though, and when you watch Fantastic Beasts, and you get into Greenwald, and you're like, that also sounds like... So which one is she trying to say with both, or which one is it more? Oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm fascinated because she is definitely trying to make an allegory towards that. I feel
like Grindelwald is more Hitler. Voldemort is more Stalin, Mao.
Really? Okay.
The Vietnam guy. What's his name?
So, but I'm fascinated by that because I feel like that sometimes is also great. When you tell a story, is that you're using, like, for example, it blew me away that the Red Wedding is a real thing that happened. Yeah. It's the Black Wedding. Or in the way that the person... Here's the thing, too. If the person got brutally murdered, how do we know that's how because they said that's how they could tell right before it happened that they brought a boar's head in or something like that, and it was the boar. It's a back boar of death. Yeah, because you don't do that. It's rude. But back then again, because it's all about I shall meet you at the battlefield of dawn. There's parley, and we shall have peace for a night, and then we shall have battle in the morning. I'm like, what? Like, no, I wouldn't do that. But again, back different age, different time. And so when I'm watching, I was like, oh my God, this is a real thing. Yeah. I will also say, too, if you get a chance to watch it, it reminded me of World War I, the way that I've read, and Dean Clarence even talks about this last season, Jon Snow leads this army against Bolton. And do you watch the show at all?
No.
Okay, so I'm just talking gobble.
Yes.
There's this one guy.
I know about the Red Wedding, though.
Okay,
I know about that.
There's this one guy, the one lead character goes up against one of the bad guys. I mean, he's horrible. He rapes people, lead characters.
Fantastic.
No,
cool.
And he's cruel about it, too. He's not like just, I like sex. He just does it because he's a dick.
As opposed to the nice rapist.
But I feel like that way it's just more like I have an addiction to something I shouldn't be doing. No, this is his addiction. He likes to torture people. Okay. So like he will randomly go like, oh, you're my dad's wife, and he's died of a heart attack or something. Or no, I murdered him, and you have a son through him. Here, you know what? I'm going to give you my dog. And he leads her to the dog, and the dog eats her and the baby alive. Horrifying. That's what he does it. He plays people because that's a fun thing for him to do. And so you really, and that's the other thing too, if you watch Game of Thrones, kind of like back then, the heroes don't always win. They usually die horrible deaths. And so this one guy, you're like, Jon Snow, come on. He leads this army up to him, and the point of all this is, which is I think you'll find interesting, because I started going, oh God, if this is what it was like in World War I, I had a panic attack almost watching it, which is there's a pile of bodies. Yeah. Because they're just piling up. Oh, and John has to climb the hill of bodies, and then he trips and falls into it. And so then more people, both sides, start dying on top of him. Yeah. And so then you get this, oh God, he's going to suffocate to death. in the pile of bodies.
Yeah, that's how like World War I, World War II very much was.
Yes, and so when you hear that, you're going, "Oh no!" But when you're watching it too, it's a very visceral reaction. So, if anything, watch it. Just watch that one. You can find it. You can go, "Oh Jesus, this is horrible." So, what other fantasy stuff that do you want to write? Are you going to some wizards? But is it like in common like? An average day? Is it going to be a play? Is it going to be just a novel? Is it going to be...
I don't know. I'm playing with it.
You're playing with it. Okay, fair enough.
I have a very like huge fascination with like queer history as well.
Okay.
And like LGBTQ figures. For example, Baron Friedrich von Steuben is my man.
Who is he? I've not heard of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. American Revolution time.
Wow. Okay.
So Baron Friedrich von Steuben, first off, he's a Prussian soldier. He is not a baron. He is the son of merchants. He just starts calling himself a baron, and everyone goes, okay.
Because he's pimp.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yes, you're not even wrong. So this man is a lieutenant colonel in the Prussian army for a couple years until they find out how gay he is. At which point they go, okay, bye, get out of our army, right?
Right.
And he flees to France, where he meets Pierre something or other. Anyway, boyfriends. He also ends up meeting Ben Franklin. And Ben Franklin is like, it's 1776, late 1776. Right. And so the American Revolution has started. And Ben Franklin goes, we need people to help fight our revolution. And Baron von Steuben goes, I'm a general. Which he wasn't. He was a colonel.
Ooh.
He goes, I'm a general. And Ben Franklin goes, cool. Go to America, meet George Washington, and help us out, right?
Yeah.
So he does. He decides, all right, we're going to go to America. He grabs his boyfriend and another boyfriend. He has two boyfriends at this point. He grabs both of his boyfriends, sails over to America, and when he lands on the shore, he gets off this boat dressed in a giant red cape. Entrances.
Yeah.
He gets off this boat and goes, he doesn't speak a lick of English. He hates England so much he refuses to learn the language. He speaks German, French, and a little bit of Spanish.
Okay.
So he gets off this boat, and in French, he's like, I am here to help you fight this war. Except he's dressed in red.
Like, so he looks like
a British forces. Yeah. So he gets arrested. George Washington finds out, sends a letter that's like, no, he's with us. Like, already knowing what this man is like. This is in the middle of Valley Forge, right? So he rolls up to Valley Forge in this giant sleigh with his two French boyfriends, a greyhound, cases of French wine, and in just this like huge like bejeweled cape. He rolls up to Valley Forge, where they're starving so bad they're eating their own horses. And he gets out of the sleigh, and basically what happens is because Valley Forge was a mess.
Yeah,
Valley Forge was a mess. Baron von Steuben shows up and basically whips the American army into shape. Mm-hmm. He shows them how to properly camp, which like don't put your latrines next to your mess hall, which they were doing.
Don't shit where you eat. Don't shit where you eat. Eat where you shit, but not the other way around. Ew,
basically, come on. He teaches them how to do things like use bayonets and be an army. All while not speaking a word of English, he has a series of translators, one of which is Alexander Hamilton, and his also boyfriend, John Lawrence. And then another translator is a man named Ben Walker, who...
that name sounds a little bit more familiar to me. Who's Walker?
Walker, you probably don't know this one. He ends up basically becoming another one of Steuben's boyfriends. One of his boyfriends dies. Pierre and Ben are just hanging out.
How you doing? I'm good. I got him tonight. Sure.
Basically.
Maybe next time. All three? No, I'm a onesie kind of guy. I'm a sorry. Well, some people might just, it's like, I'm cool with you doing whatever, but I'm just a you and me. Yeah.
Baron von Steuben helps them fight the rest of the war. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, Congress basically goes, cool, thanks for helping us. Here's this mansion we stole from the British. Do you want it? And Steuben goes, okay. So he takes this mansion and he turns it into a haven for young queer people, basically.
Okay.
So
I thought you were going a different direction with that, and I was like, no, that's actually a cooler direction, really, than making it like a. I thought you were going to say it was a whorehouse for
no,
but no, that's cool. That's cool.
He runs it with his two boyfriends. At one point, one of the sons of John Adams ends up in that house with another man.
Was that the one that went
Charles
poor
Adams? Yes.
Desolate. Yeah.
Him.
Him. Yeah.
Charles Adams.
What's up?
Do you know Hamilton? If you do know it, Hercules Mulligan, who was one of the revolutionary set in the first act, actually one of his sons ends up as Charles Adams' boyfriend, and they met while working for Alexander Hamilton, and then they ran off together, and then John Adams basically bullies his son Charles into coming back, and then Charles drinks himself to death.
Yeah. Because John was a dick sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree with him about the whole president, El Supreme President, or whatever.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, ooh, that's a little bad.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, have you seen John Adams, the show?
Yes.
Like, I saw that, and I went back and listened to the audiobook, which it took me forever, but it was amazing. But I just remember the guy who played Washington. It was it was a wicked 1700s burn.
Right.
Where he's just like, oh, and by the way, Mr. Adams, Supreme President, and just walks out and Adams already knows what he did wrong, and he's still kind of pissed about it. So he's just like, I do not believe Abigail.
Steuben ends up dying, and he bequeaths this mansion to his two boyfriends who live together eventually, and whatever.
Do they kick everyone out of the haven and make the house for themselves?
No, they keep this little haven for a while. Eventually, after they're gone, though, society sort of catches up to the haven, and it's kind of like, now that Steuben and his boyfriends aren't there to protect you, yikes.
Yeah.
But talk about John Adams. One of my favorite stories about John Adams.
Oh, boy. All right.
One of my favorite stories about John Adams is during the election of 1800, which is him versus Thomas Jefferson versus Aaron Burr. But we're mostly focused on him and Jefferson right now.
Okay.
Him and Jefferson were going back and forth with this election, and John Adams basically goes, he's at this party, and he's like, Thomas Jefferson is a Francophile, and if you elect him president, we'll turn into France.
Yeah.
So Thomas Jefferson is like, hears this and goes, okay, John Adams is a trans dude who had orgies in the White House. That's his statement, right? He just puts that out there. John Adams' response is, oh yeah? Well, yesterday, Thomas Jefferson got hit by a carriage and died.
See, back then, that's how they roll. But the great thing is, though, too, which I find, is that they were still able to mend their friendship at the end, which has the coolest death in history, where Jefferson lives. It's like, no, he passed away like an hour or two ago. Yeah.
Yikes.
All right, so I do apologize. We are out of time.
That's fine.
But I do have to say, that's June. July. Are you on the first night or second night?
I am second night.
You are second. So you're Saturday the 15th, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so you guys are the 15th and the 22nd at 8 p.m., and then you are on the second matinee, which is the 23rd, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's from the second reading. By the way, I have to ask before we what was the biggest change from what I saw in the second reading to what you'll see in the final in terms of writing?
I'm trying to think. Was there any major changes?
That's good though.
I edited, there are two people who own the cafe that they're in, and then the two other people.
Right.
The two people who own the cafe, I edited their relationship a little bit, and then I added a prop with a phone, but basically that's it.
Wow, that's great. Who is your mentor?
Jeremy Stoney.
See, I feel real bad because
the first draft that I had compared to the second reading draft was so different.
I need to know more people in MATLAB, because I was telling the last girls, I think it was Maddie, she's like, Jason. I was like, I don't know who that is, and I feel horrible. Well, that's awesome. And was there anything else you want to say, or anything else you'd like to plug on here before we, besides Young Writers 2017? July 15th, 22nd at 8 p.m., and then the 23rd at 3 p.m. I'm prepared this time.
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me talk about history.
I love history, and I love all that stuff. So thank you very much for coming on and talking. And I hope you learn shit because thanks for listening. Get
out of here without cheese! You're a creep! Go away! We're having a good time until you start up, cheapers! Go have some coffee with cream or something, because I'll tell you something. This is a